Okay, welcome. Today is October 29th. This is a meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Muskego. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will have the roll call, please.
Dr. Blumenfeld,
I am here.
Mr. Barshert,
Present.
Mr. Robertson,
Here.
Mr. Pefalski.
Present.
Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting laws on Thursday, October 25th, 2019.
Okay, we will do the approval of the minutes at the end of the meeting. We will tell you that we can go into closed session, but in all of my years on this board, we have never, to my recollection, gone into closed session. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but we've never done it that I can remember. New business. And before I begin, I would like to welcome one of the newest members of our Board of Appeals. That's Joseph Boschert, who comes to us over here. And we have one other member who is not here. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Alderman Borgman and Alderman Kubaki. So thank you for joining us. Okay, new business. Appeal number 03-2019, petitioner Tatiana Hansen, property West 179 South 6765 Muskego Drive, tax key number 2174.922. Requesting under the direction of Section 400-18 of the Municipal Code, the petitioner seeks the following variance. Section 400-167I, walks, drives, paved terraces, mechanical appurtenances, third time the charm, for all single-family and two-family structures such as air conditioners, venting, and service panels, and purely decorative garden accessories were subject to permanent structure classification shall be permitted in setback and offset areas, but not closer than 3 feet to an abutting property line other than a street line. An offset of 3 feet is required from the side lot lines for any driveways and walkways, sidewalks. The petitioner seeks an offset of 1 foot from the side lot line to be able to leave a portion of an existing unpermitted walkway and is therefore requesting a 2-foot variance from the required side offset. Who appears and would like to speak on this matter? Please stand.
Anyone that wants to speak has to be sworn in. So if you want to make a comment, speak anything, you have to stand up and be sworn in. Yeah.
So if anyone is thinking of speaking, please just raise your right hand. Aaron?
All right. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in Appeal 03-2019 shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And for the record, will you please state your name, ma'am? Loud enough so that our recorder can hear you.
Stacy Kaiser.
And spell your last name, please.
K-A-I-S-E-R.
And your address, please.
W179S6769 Muskego Drive.
Okay. And ma'am?
I'm Tatiana Hansen.
Okay. And we have your address for the record. Okay. All right. So, Ms. Hansen, would you like to come forward and tell us why you are applying for this variance?
Essentially, we had purchased the house that we're living in right now about 2 years ago, or about 2.5 years ago, and we didn't realize that the concrete was over the property line and the shed. So we had, looked at trying to get a survey done. Our neighbor did a survey identifying the concrete that was over the property, but we would like to have a survey as well. Attempted to get a survey. The survey came back to us incomplete without the basic requirements. I think I sent the copy of communication between that surveyor to Adam so that I requested another survey to be completed, but they wouldn't be able to do it by this time. So I have a different survey that would set up with with the real dimensions that I was looking for the shed to move over. We are just asking for basically a 1 foot off of the property line so that it's less disruption towards basically our narrow lot, and the way that the hill that we have and the erosion and all of the things that I've mentioned in the packet, it just would make it the whole lot manageable for us. But we are trying to compromise with moving and making the shed, excuse me, meet the ordinance of, I think Adam had put together a 4.89 foot off the property line. So we would like to just move that over, meet the ordinance on that facility or the building, and then be able to just have the concrete cut off 1 foot of it from the property line. And that's why we're asking for the 2 foot variance.
Okay.
And I will have a completed survey. The surveyor is behind. Obviously, you guys all know that surveyors are very high, are needed right now, apparently. And the weather has been constricting for them to finish, so it probably won't be done until November, the 3rd week in November, which would validate how we were going to move the shed and be able to pour the concrete more into the property to fit the shed, to move it over successfully.
Questions from members of the board?
How did you discover it was over the lot line?
My neighbor next door got a survey because she's putting up a fence on the lot line. And she had bought her house the same, probably about a week difference from us. So neither one of us got a survey when we bought our houses.
When was that purchase? When were those purchases made?
Back in 2017 May, I think.
And neither you nor you did not get a survey?
No, I didn't get a survey.
Was there a reason you did not get a survey?
No, we never get a survey when we buy houses, and we have multiple houses here in Muskego.
Did your lender suggest that you get a survey?
No.
Did you use a realtor?
Yes. No, we did not with this house. But we've used realtors on all of our other houses in Muskego, and they have never required or suggested a survey when purchasing houses.
And when was the last time you purchased a house other than this house?
Last year on
And-
Forest Drive.
And you did not require or request
No.
a survey? Okay. And did you go to banks to get loans to purchase these homes?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you request the survey when you found out that your neighbor was going to put in a house and the lot line was?
After she would negotiate with us on what we were going to agree on, whether to cut the concrete or put the fence up against the property line. And she wasn't willing to compromise on any level, so she got the alderman to complain. So that's 2 complaints on your guys' rules. So then we wanted to get a survey when that final complaint went in. So we ended up getting the survey then.
And when was that?
Back in August, July, August.
Of 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Tatiana Hansen?
What is the current width of the walkway?
The current width, I think, is on the survey that I submitted. I think it depends on the part that you're on. It's not equal all the way through, but I think it is, I can't remember the exact number that's between the shortest point, but I think it's 8 feet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That isn't the survey I submitted, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Yes, you're right. So I think I drew in there because this isn't the complete survey. Like I said, it doesn't have the high water mark or the square footage that are required when getting an official survey. So I just drew that in and by Adam's permission to identify the shortest point.
And so currently from looks like the driveway to the shed, is that entire length of that, is that over or on the property line or out of compliance currently?
It's out of compliance currently.
Okay.
I mean, that's why we're here for the variance.
Yep.
But it's variable on how over the line it is. So we're not asking for the variance with that. We would cut that out. We're asking for the variance plus that. So it would be the 1 foot cut out plus what's over the lot line, essentially, to make it right.
Okay, so just for clarification on the survey, because you do have a survey and it has the August 2019 date on it.
Yep.
Why and when did they tell you that the survey wasn't correct? The Metropolitan Survey Service.
When did I don't remember when I sent the email to Adam. It would have been September, I think it was right before the date of the meeting for this. So it was the day before.
Yeah, I mean, the encroachment area isn't wrong. Some of the questions they have relate to the northern lot line, which has nothing to do with the encroachment and just the ordinary watermark and
Yeah,
stuff. So
that
even though there
was-
are some questions with it, there aren't any, I don't think there's any dispute of anything in the area that we're talking about. So as much as it's important, it
Yes.
really probably doesn't have a bearing on the variance request because it relates to stuff on the north side, opposite side of the lot.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Hanson? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ms. Kaiser, would you like to speak? And if you would, please come forward. And
I just would like to set up a fence down my, I guess would be the west side of my property line, and it's been, I've had a contractor come out, I've had multiple bids, and I feel like it's been difficult to get my fence up because of the concrete on my property. My survey was done in May, and that's when I approached them about putting the fence up. So I just want to make sure that I have enough room when people come out to actually get the fence up, and maybe a certain timeline of when it could happen. I don't know if that's even something that's discussed here. I've got dogs and kids, and I would like the privacy, and I'd like to be able to keep my dog in my yard, and I'm not even sure if this is the appropriate place to mention all that, or...
it's the reason that you've requested that things get straightened out. So, and this is the Board of Appeals, so.
Other than that, I don't have much, I guess.
Excuse me?
Other than that, I don't have much to say.
Okay. Did anything change between May 2017 and May 2019 that you decided that you wanted to get a fence? Was there did you have any idea that, you didn't get a survey either when you purchased your property, is that correct?
I did not get a survey either.
Okay. And you went through a broker as well?
I did
You did not go
not.
through a broker? You went through a lender?
I did not go
You
through a
did not
lender.
go through a lender, okay. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Kaiser from the board?
I'm sorry, is a broker a real estate agent?
Yes.
Then I did go through a real estate agent,
Okay.
but I did not go through a lender.
Okay, and the real estate agent never suggested that you get a survey done when you purchased the property?
No,
No, because that gets in the way of their sale.
No, but it's protection. I was a broker, it's protection.
That's a lawyer suggestion thing, not a real estate agent thing. You should always
in
get a lawyer when
hindsight,
you buy property.
yeah.
It's like one of those boxes that you check.
Yeah, they
If you
just-
do it the right way, never mind. Okay.
Real estate
All right.
agents don't want anything that gets in the way, so they don't suggest
Not
anything.
all of them. Okay, so, any other questions for the members of the board? Okay, Adam, would you please present the city's part of this process?
Thank you, Dr. Blumenfield. Yeah, I mean, I won't reiterate everything, obviously. I'll just kind of hit on, I think, a few key points since you guys have the packets in front of you. Like you said, yeah, the survey came, we got the concern, complaint came from the alderman that the neighbors' survey showed that there was about a 1 foot encroachment. I mean, it varies a little bit, but about a foot or so. And that's what this survey also shows. So it's good that we actually have two surveys that show the same thing, which they should, but it kind of helps reaffirm what's there today. So just to clarify, the application that was submitted to us was not only removing what's over the lot line, removing 1 foot in. So about 2 feet or so of removal, but what will be important in the end is actually 1 foot in from the lot line is the applicant's request. The code does note 3 feet for sidewalks and walkways and such, and we've had different cases come in front of this board in the past, some approved, some not. when, there was no space but, to have a 3-foot walkway right up against the house, and that's all that would be there. I know there's been some cases in the past where the board, when someone wanted maybe a 4-foot, and I think the board gave like a 3-foot or something, or I know some cases where staff was recommending a 2-foot variance, and the board said, well, let's at least keep 3, because 3 is kind of a standard. Not that you have to apply ADA rules to a house, but I think in most cases, 36-inch or 3 feet applies to a lot of walkways and stuff for ADA. So I think 3-foot's been kind of a standard that I've heard from the board in the past. There is no code standard when it comes to a private residential walkway. As far as the board members asked one question about, about how much walkway is there, based upon the survey numbers that we can come up with, it's about.
Thinnest point, please.
Yeah, the thinnest point to us looks like it's 7.99 feet based upon the dimensions, so basically 8 feet. I'm sorry, 6.99, so just under 7 feet. So when you take the 3-foot and the 3.9, so what we analyzed from looking at the survey would be if you were to do a 3-foot cutback from the lot line, so removing the 1-foot encroachment, removing 3 feet of walkway, that would still leave approximately, and this is based upon the numbers on the survey, 3.99 feet of walkway at the narrowest point. If you look in the photos, you'll see there's a deck on the south side of this home, and on the north side, yeah, as you can see here, so that's the walkway in question. You can see that there's a concrete lip or curb that prevents any water that runs down that walkway from running at the house, which was really smart, whoever poured that. It keeps it away from the house, which is a pro. But so from the edge of that deck is what the survey shows, is where we believe from the survey that if you were to remove what would be compliant, you would be left with 3.99 feet of walkway. So that is more than we've seen a lot of other people have in this city. Like I said, 3 foot is very typical. Doesn't mean you can't go more, doesn't mean you can't go less. But yeah, it looks like about 3.99 at the narrowest point, and it does get a little bit wider as you go towards the front of the home or the street side of the home. Some of the things that the board probably read in the packet that the board is supposed to consider, or things that there's zoning case law out there. Some of the things that the board should think about is the hardship self-imposed, or is the hardship a circumstance of the applicant? Because those are things that are not grounds for granting a variance. Somebody wanting a certain size walkway isn't a rule to just be able to get a waiver. You have to kind of show that it's not functional without it. As far as other kind of case law goes, there are some things that talk about the variance should be the least variance needed, so that if there is another option that works that doesn't need a variance or needs less of a variance, those options should be pursued first. A couple things that didn't come up here but sometimes come up is, well, hey, my neighbor's walkway is closer or something. There could be a bunch of different reasons why that is or isn't, but nearby violations has been actually stated in case law as not being reason for granting of a variance. And when you look at what's called the 3-step test, which to talk about unnecessary hardship, unique property limitations, and no harm to public interest. When you kind of break down those 3 main things, when it comes to unnecessary hardship, that exists when compliance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using property for the permitted purpose. I think here that if you were to cut it back as the code says it should be at 3 feet, that leaves you, like I said, just under 4 feet, between 3 and 4 feet. That doesn't leave, you still have permit, you still have use. Number one, there's no code that says you have to get around your house on a paved surface, but they still have the luxury of having approximately a 4-foot walkway that would still be able to get stuff around from their street side or driveway side of the house to the lake side. When it comes to unique property limitations, I don't know if there's anything really unique here. It is a lake lot. It's a typical lake lot width. It's narrow like a lot of the lake lots we have on the lake are. They are lucky enough to have the house shifted a little bit north, which gives them a little more space. So even with a removal of 3 feet from the lot line, it still gives them that 4 feet. And then when it comes to public interest, we would agree that there is no harm to the public interest one way or the other, as it's on their private land. Now, there is an impact potentially in the neighbor with the fence, depending upon how much is removed. But I think the biggest concern of the neighbor, as they expressed, was as long as it's not on their property to be able to get posted, that's their biggest concern. The owner mentioned in the packet some concerns about drainage and runoff too, I think, and erosion if this area were to have some of the concrete removed. And some comments on that we kind of had was that actually from an engineering standpoint, you potentially could help drainage. Like I said, there's a curb on the one side of the sidewalk, so no water should be flowing at the house. So regardless of if it's 5 feet wide or 20 feet wide, the water's not going to flow at the house, because if it is, it's going to hit that curb. So the concern is really lot line side. If there is a concern with runoff, usually engineers look at infiltration as an option to try to decrease erosion potential and increase ground infiltration to try to keep it from all gushing in one controlled area. So actually, if they were to open up, a 3 or 4 foot swatch of concrete, like they're talking about, if you follow the code, and if you were to install some type of, river rock or drain tile in there, or even grass for that matter, that probably has a lot more absorption than you would if it was concrete, which is going to run it off. So if you fix it and fix it right with proper drain tile or even simple gravel or grass, that's going to probably help runoff more than anything rather than just disperse it further down the way. We do want to note and reiterate, like the applicant mentioned, that they worked with us graciously to, on their own will, move their shed, because the shed was part of an original encroachment also. That was part of the initial complaint. But on their own will, they have been working with staff, and they are, as they mentioned, going to move the shed via a separate permit so that that's not an issue. The concrete slab will remain there, which is fine, and they'll cut that. However, they have to cut the rest of the walkway because it's kind of part of the walkway as it functions, but then they'll be pouring a new slab with a new permit down the road for the shed relocation. So that's not part of what the board has to look at tonight. Based upon that, staff was recommending denial of the proposal for a 1 foot variance, seeing that a 3 foot offset would still leave a very functional walkway at about 4 feet, just a hair under 4 feet. There's really nothing on the property that limits this property, saying that the walkway has to be this large for the property to function safely and properly. Now, there are a couple things that staff needs to note to the board. So regardless of what the outcome of this case is tonight, anytime we have a scenario where someone has an encroachment, we want to obviously make sure it's removed appropriately. And as such, whatever the outcome is, however much they have to remove or not remove, we do suggest to the board that they require that an as-built survey be done after all the work is done to ensure that it was done properly. Staff, I'm not a surveyor, my coworker's not a surveyor, so we don't do private surveying, so we ask that they would have a survey of just that one area, have a surveyor verify that they meet whatever the decision of the board is after it's all done. Note 2 is that with any possible outcome here tonight, that the board should establish a time frame as to when whatever kind of concrete does have to be removed is removed. Typically, when things fall later in the year, the board and I think staff has kind of agreed, we usually look at like spring, so we're suggesting probably a date not to exceed May 1st. We understand weather can play a little havoc on that, so the board might want to discuss with whatever the outcome is, when they want to set a deadline that this work might have to be done. If they want to set it this fall yet or winter, that's up to the board. Note 3 would be after the concrete is removed. It's just noting to the applicant that they are welcome to fill that area with decorative stone, mulch, landscaping, lawn, whatever they want, so it doesn't just have to remain as dirt or erosion. We'd encourage them to restore it so they don't have erosion issues. And then just reiterating the idea that the shed would need a building permit and has to meet all building codes.
Okay, any questions for Adam? Rick?
Where are they on impervious surface? They've got to be like right up to the limits on it, aren't they?
That's one thing that we talked about the survey purpose. As the applicant mentioned, the surveyor didn't properly mark the ordinary high water mark, and that's going to dictate the legal lot size. The legal lot size goes to the ordinary high water mark. That was something we kind of really briefly talked about, but we don't know exactly where they're at. When you look at the survey there, the surveyor didn't even put the lot size, it's just all zeros because they weren't complete with it. And like I said, because of the new survey involved, the applicant knows that we talked about lot size being determined by the new surveyor. That is something that will have to be looked at. In this zoning, which is RL3, they'll have to keep either 6,666 square feet as open or 75% of the lot surface area is open, whichever works more in their advantage. It is a pretty deep lot compared to some others. Like I said, I don't have a lot calculation because the surveyor didn't provide it, but that is something we've talked about and will have to be looked at, which that ordinary high water mark determination and then apparent lot size will have a bearing on that. Removing any will obviously put them in the right direction, but I can't say that they're over or under at this time.
Well, from looking at it, it looks like they're at least a third of the property's impervious, which would put them over.
But like I said, using the 6666 calculation, 6,666 square feet, that works better for a lot of lake owners. There's that sweet spot of how big is your lot. If it's over a certain size, under a certain size, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where they're at.
Just a clarification, what is the definition of self-imposed hardship and circumstances of the applicant?
The idea is, circumstances of the applicant is something the applicant normally would have control over. So like, let's say this wasn't in, the applicant can control how wide their circumstance, how wide they say they want it. Some people say, well, I want it to be a certain width because I want to be able to get a vehicle down there, whatever. That's something that, the applicant controls. Same thing here. Even though it's already there, which shouldn't change the board's view on it, the idea of, is there a reason, is there a circumstance of theirs that requires it to be a certain width or not? Which, for a walkway, I don't think there really is. I mean, a walkway can be whatever width you want it to be. What was the other item? I'm sorry.
Self-imposed hardship.
So self-imposed would be someone creating something that's how can I best describe this? That they put that way. So I think of a good example would be really a good example of self-imposed. Well, in this scenario, I don't know if I would say it's self-imposed, but it's more of, they kind of inherited it, but what prohibits them from fixing it? What, with their own, I apologize, I'm trying to think of the right words here. So let's say their deck needs to be rebuilt on this house, and they say, we want to build that deck closer to the lot line because we want it to be wide enough to be able to wheel a big grill on there or something. The idea of them choosing that certain design and that width is self-imposed. They're choosing that. So it's kind of the idea of what does the owner have control over and what don't they?
And Joseph, a financial issue cannot be utilized for the variance. If they're claiming on a request that it would be a financial hardship, under state law, we cannot recognize that as a hardship, so that would be a self-imposed hardship.
Yeah, I think it's a good example, yeah.
Okay, any other, yes?
Circling back to my impermeable surface concerns, once you get those numbers and say they're over, and we have already granted an appeal, a variance, what happens then?
So there'd be two things. They'll have the ability on their own to, if they would be over, remove something else to make up for the overage, if they would wish. The variance specifically is location, not relating to open space at all. So when they would get the survey that would give us that information, they'll get a permit to cut it back because it's not permitted ever. We'll permit it as what that new size is going to be. If we realize it's over, then they'll have the ability to remove something else. Maybe they say, oh, maybe we remove a little bit, from a, instead of a width standpoint, more a lateral standpoint. Or they could try for a separate variance. That would be a whole separate type of request. Even tonight, if they knew they were over, if that was the case, it would still be two different items independent from one another.
Take the pad out in front of the.
I know.
Any other questions? Joseph?
Yeah, so if the variance is denied, what are the options for the property owner?
So if the variance is denied, that means by default, they have to meet the zoning ordinance. So then they would remove 3 feet, move whatever's encroaching over, as well as 3 feet into the property within whatever time frame the board would agree upon.
Okay.
And that's like, it's a good thing to give you an overview. So really what, as board members, and most of you know this, what you have the option is you can approve the variance as they present it. So allowing a 1 foot cutback. You can go with the code requirement, which is a 3 foot cutback, or really anything in the middle. You just can't give them more than they want. Like you can't say, well, we'll let you leave it on the lot line because they're asking for 1. But you can give them anything between what they're asking for and what the code says.
Okay.
Within the law.
I'm sorry?
Within the law.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Any other questions from the members of the board? Okay, then that concludes the public portion of this
One
one.
question.
Sure, go ahead.
Can I ask the neighbor something, or is she done?
She's done,
All right.
but if you were gonna,
So if I were to ask the neighbor, when does
Not
she?
that you are asking
Not
the
that I am, when does she want to have her fence done?
I've been trying to put up the fence for a while now, so I have half of it, or, I have like half of it completed and it's up to the cement right now. I have a contractor that I paid already who's ready to start whenever
Okay.
they can. Probably, it'll either be before the ground freezes or.
so we're
Your watch, more
talking
not a
next year,
calendar.
theoretically, next year. And so you didn't ask the question, so this doesn't appear in the minutes. Okay, then we will close the public portion of this. You're more than welcome to stick around and hear our discussion. If you don't want to stick around, you can always contact Adam tomorrow morning, and he will give you the decision of the Board of Appeals. But Most people stick around for the excitement of hearing us decide what we're going to do. So I need a motion for this appeal number 03-2019. It's just a motion. I move to, it always bothers me that we have to do this as a positive, but.
You don't, you can do it as a negative. Make a motion any way you want.
That's why I'm not
The
speaking.
importance of it is on a tie.
Well, it's
How
for
you vote,
discussion.
yeah.
It's for- yeah. Oh, boy, that could happen tonight, too,
Yes,
couldn't it?
so-
Okay,
Think of which way you want it.
I move to deny appeal number 03-2019. Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and discussion. Don't everybody jump at the same time to get your thoughts in there, because we could be here a little while then. Well, let me start then, and maybe you can all jump in on this. I appreciate everybody's attempts to try and work this out, especially staff, because there are many variations on every appeal that we hear, and Adam and his staff have done a wonderful job of trying to resolve those before they get to us. But we do get these unique types of appeals, and we do have so many lots in the city of Muskego that are unique, and that's why the appeals come to us. But having said that, we've also discussed a little bit about hardships and what a hardship constitutes, and whether, regardless of who's responsible for creating this hardship, or creating this situation, that doesn't constitute a hardship necessarily. There are rules and regs in the city of Muskego that, for the most part, everybody tends to follow. Sometimes things happen where they don't get followed, like there aren't surveys or there aren't permits that are granted, and then we deal with those as well. The fact that this lot is long and narrow is what it is. The fact that the driveway was put in without a permit and that nobody in how many years has determined that there was something wrong with it until something occurred this year is unfortunate. But that's why we're here today, and that's why we have to make a decision based on this. I don't believe that cutting this driveway back to 3.99 feet eliminates the walkway. In fact, it keeps it, it still keeps it there. It probably allows for better drainage than concrete, as Adam had said. Under the application that the appellant provided to us, and we understand it's a unique lot. We understand it's a steep incline. We understand that the concrete directs water away from the house. It will still do that because of the lip. And I don't see a hardship that exists here to allow us to say, okay, you can't keep the driveway 1 foot smaller than it is now so that it can stay as wide as it is. Being able to drive and get closer to the lake isn't a hardship. And I haven't, unless I've missed something, and it's totally possible that I did, but that there isn't a hardship that exists here for approving the variance. So, with that said, would anybody else like to speak?
In here, it's mentioned that, erosion should not be any issue. And so let's say that, they remediate that, they follow all the processes of drain tile or whatever it is, and let's say that there is an issue. Does the city bear any type of financial responsibility if that were to happen?
To the best of my ability, I would think not.
I mean, the general answer is if they're not confident they know how to do it, they should hire a professional that can help them. I mean, there's always a solution to something like drainage related. So it'd be, if they're not aware how to do it, probably contacting somebody that's qualified to help them design a solution that would work.
Any other comments? Concerns, questions? Okay, let's call the question then.
Go.
Okay.
Dr. Blumenfeld?
Why don't you repeat
Oh.
the motion?
The motion was,
Just for the record.
the motion was to deny the application, the appeal for the 1 foot,
03-2019.
deny appeal 03-2019, requesting
That's
an
okay.
offset of 1 foot from the side lot line.
Okay. I'm voting yes to
Dr.
deny.
Blumenfeld. Mr. Boschert,
Yes.
to deny
To the
appeal.
motion, correct.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Petfalski,
Aye.
appeal 03-2019 is denied 4-0.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
You wanted dates from us.
Oh,
Yeah,
darn it. We should probably just make another motion to put the dates in there and make it official.
Well, then,
should we vote to bring it back to the floor since it was voted on?
who made the motion in second? You have to ask for reconsideration. Actually, any of us can ask for
Because
reconsideration.
we all
I'll ask
voted.
for
Okay,
reconsideration of the
second,
motion.
second. This is to modify the appeal number 03-2019, and that is to include as part of,
First, we have to vote to put it back on the floor.
oh, okay. Let's vote to put it back on the floor. Anybody opposed? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we will go back to staff's recommendation for these, for this appeal. Okay.
Date, yeah, a date of when they would have to have this
Okay,
completed by.
a denial of appeal number 03-2019, concrete to be removed by May 1st of 2020, since unfortunately winter is already here, and that, I should have something separate. And also to have the property surveyed after the concrete is removed to ensure that
They're in compliance.
it's compliant.
No, one question I'd like to ask, because we had this come up in a different scenario in the past, is if weather prohibits, realistically, if weather prohibits compliance by the day, let's just say we have some crazy winter and things are still frozen
Here?
come near the time, all right? Who knows Wisconsin? What would the board prefer as the mechanism if they would say, hey, we need more time, and if it's clearly a legitimate weather thing, not just that we haven't got around to getting somebody to cut it?
Could stop a concrete saw.
Well, no,
No,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but this has come up in another case that was in front of the board, so I don't want to step on the board's toes as far as, does the board want this person to come back to ask for a new time frame? Is there a certain amount of time the board's willing to give staff? What is the board comfortable with?
we have had this problem before, and we've also had problems where we didn't put a date in, so I would say that
I can't see
we stay with May 1st, and in the event that they are not compliant by May 1st, that they
Come back to the
come
board.
back.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. We will now go to old business.
Well,
have to
yeah, we have to
approve that
vote
motion.
on that now.
So I'll
Brain
make
dead,
it-
brain dead, brain dead.
So did you make the motion to amend your?
I did, and now I'll make a motion to
No, we got to vote on that.
No, so you just did a motion to bring it back to the floor.
bring it back to the floor. So
make a
now
mo-
I'm making a motion
To amend
with
your-
these.
So you're
Yes.
amending your original motion, right?
Yes, I am.
So that takes a whole separate vote.
It does, it does. I'm amending the denial of appeal number 03-2019. Aaron, I will do this to try and get this straight for you, okay? And that is to say, number one is denial, number two is the property must be surveyed after the concrete is removed to make sure it's in compliance, and number two, that the concrete needs to be removed by May 1st of 2020.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay.
So now you vote, because it's your
Well, I know,
amendment.
I'm just thinking that if we say a survey after, what if they get it done May 1st and then they, as long as the concrete's removed?
Concrete's
Okay,
gotta be
okay,
removed,
all right,
okay.
roll call.
Okay.
Put a date on the survey.
No.
Dr. Blumenfeld,
Yes.
Mr. Boschert,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Petfalski.
Yes. No, that was just on the amendment. Now you gotta vote as the.
Okay, now,
So we're approving the motion?
as amended, yes. Go
Well,
ahead.
now we're voting on the motion as amended,
Yep.
so. So now you.
Dr. Blumenfeld.
Well, wait, we need a motion first.
I motion to approve the motion as
We just
amended.
amended it.
Right.
You amended, now you just got to
It's
vote.
already amended, you don't need another motion, now you
Okay.
just vote on the motion as amended.
Yeah, so you can just vote at this point.
I worked in government for so long, and I hated all these Robert's Rules of Orders, but go ahead, okay.
So I made the motion.
Well, it was already made, you didn't need to make
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Oh,
so now we're just going to vote on it.
Just all those
One more
in
time,
favor
Aaron.
say aye.
Okay.
One more time.
Dr. Blumenfeld,
Yes.
Mr. Boschert,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Petfalski.
Motion passes.
Appeal 03-2019 is denied 4-0.
Okay. Thank you. We will now move on to old business, which is approval of the minutes from February 20th.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I abstain. Or can I abstain? Do you need 4?
No. we
No.
don't need-
Okay. Because I wasn't here, so.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, and now I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for all the confusion with this. For a long time, we were not allowed to change, or to make it a denial. It had to be a positive. It had to be, yes, it had to be approval of the motion.
Dustin or Brian rule way back in
And it was so frustrating, because we,
That's why you're looking down